Hello everyone, this is Tony. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Trophy Travel Experiences. Today I'm doing a video on the city of Lyon. And why Lyon? Lyon is the third largest city in France behind Paris and Marseille. It's about 500,000 people in the city center. It's a really great place to go, a great alternative to Paris. And that's why I went. You know, I've many times traveled to Paris. Paris is great, but it's got all the big city as compared to Lyon. Lyon to me is an up and coming city that you can really get to know. It's got a lot of art, a lot of culture, a lot of great food that we'll talk about, and also history, nice environment, nice people, very walkable. Lyon is in the center of France. It's about 2-hour train from Paris, maybe an hour and a half plane ride. It's got an international airport, so that's nice. You can actually fly into, I think it's called Saint-Exupéry Airport, which is a nice airport and is a nice alternative to Charles de Gaulle, which is quite busy. So actually that's not a bad thing to do, to actually fly into Lyon and then perhaps spend a couple of days and then take the train. They do have train system in France is very good, so it's very easy to get from Lyon to Paris by speed train, maybe 2 to 2.5 hours. So it's very convenient. Its history. It was part of the Roman Empire, and so it was a very important city, and there are some nice ruins in Lyon, and that's surprising to me. So that's quite a magnificent, they've been rebuilt and things like that, but it's quite a magnificent site. So let's start with kind of a bit of the topography. It's between two rivers, the Rhone River and the Saône River. And then it's also got a higher ground, which is kind of formerly a fortress. What to do in Lyon? There's a couple of things. So we're going to break this up into a couple of parts. The first part, I'm going to talk about free things to do. And then the second part, I'm going to talk about things that you need to spend a little bit of money to do. I also will do a video on the food of Lyon, but that will appear on my other channel, Trophy Food Experiences. Okay. What can you do for free in Lyon? I talk about this in many cities. Many larger cities do have these free tours. And by free, what it means is that there's no actual cost to it, but the guides actually expect that you will tip them. So I took the free Lyon tour. I took it for 2 days with our guide, who is excellent. I'll have the link in the comment section. I thought it would give me a great history. I do this for many cities now. I formerly took a lot of private tours, and although those are good, these free tours are actually just as good in my mind. They give you a nice kind of overview of the city, so I do recommend that you take these tours either on the first or second day when you're there. You can either the first day just kind of walk around the city and get the sights, take your photos, and just get a lay of the land. Or you can actually take the tour on the first day and then get the history and then do it the reverse way, where you take your pictures or you kind of go back to things that interest you on the second day. But I find them very useful. He offered 2 tours. One of them, the Old Town tour, I thought was a little bit more interesting, but both of them were good. And they give a lot of history about the city. So I think those are very useful. The second thing that is walkable is they have an old town in Lyon, which is similar to many cities in Europe. They have some old remnants of a town, and so that is very useful just to walk around. In that town area, there are what they call these pathways or tribbles, which were used by in the days, it used to be a silk capital by people who were running the silk, kind of go between buildings and things like that. And then also it was used in World War II. So there's a very kind of nice history. So all these tribbles actually run towards the rivers. And so it's kind of a pathway. It's kind of like a maze. And there are many of them, but the one that's there's some that are open to the public and there's some that are not. Yeah, I don't think you could actually spend a day just going around the city looking at all these trabuels, but there's one called the Long Trabuel, which I'll do a video on, which is a kind of sufficient. It's kind of neat to do that, to take photos in there, and it's kind of neat. But after a while, it's kind of they're all kind of look the same, but they're nice, you know, because they're kind of nooks and crannies and mazes, and you discover things. So for those people that are adventurous, they'll like that. I will say that they get very busy in the mornings and the afternoon, because that's when the tours come. So typically tour groups or tours start at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. So if you can get to the Trabuel or some of these sites before that time, 9 a.m. or after that time, 4 p.m., you do a little bit better in terms of the crowds. The next thing that you can do for free is just walk along and look at the two rivers, the Rhone River and the Saône River. Another place that you can go is the Intercontinental Hotel. It was formerly a hospital, and all the way up to very recently, so probably 1980s probably, it was a hospital. And so the Intercontinental Group took this over in 2019. So it's a brand new hotel with shops, and so it's still retains that classic view. So that around that area is a lot of shopping and kind of touristy things to do. So that's kind of interesting also. And the last thing that's, I think, really you should do, it's all this is for free, is to go up to the ruins, the Roman amphitheater. And so that's higher up on the hill. There's a basilica there called the Fourvière Basilica, which is, again, free entrance. There's an ancient theater. There is a museum there that is paid, so I won't talk about that. But there's many squares in Lyon that you can go to. I also mentioned that all the cathedrals and basilicas in Lyon, and I think typically most of France, are free, so you can go in there and take a look. Some of them will have audio guides, some of them won't. I don't think they had audio guides for any of these, but it was a really good experience to take a look inside. If you are a Christian, you could actually attend Mass, having said that the Masses are done in French. So it is possible, I think, to be in Lyon and really not have to spend very much money at all with museums and things like that. But you could also go and take the museum. But if you are going to go there, one of the things that I would suggest is to go and visit their tourism office, and I'll have their address. They're in a square that's very close to the city center called Bellecour Plaza, and they have this city pass, which you can have, or gives you entry into all these different museums and all these transits, including the tram up to the higher levels. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but there's a couple of things that you can see. The Museum of Fine Arts is one of the finest museums in France. We didn't have time to go, but supposedly it's a great museum. So again, that's something you could do if you are, especially if it's raining, you can do that. There is a museum at the Roman amphitheater, which has the some of the relics or from the actual amphitheater. Personally, I don't think you need it, because the amphitheater itself is really quite magnificent. So in summary, I really find that a lot of things you really don't need to spend a lot of money in Lyon. If anything, if you really want to see some of the museums, go get the city pass from the Lyon Tourism Office, and that'll set you up, because that's got transit also. You can take the buses, you can take the tram up to the higher levels. So how Lyon is kind of situated is there's a lower level where the Intercontinental Hotel is. Then you walk across a bridge to the other side, which is the old town, which is where the Trabuels are, and then you go up a tram that goes up to the higher levels, which is the Fourvière Basilica and the the ancient ruins. I'll also mention that Lyon has lots of murals, which you can see for free. Most of them are outside of the city center, so they're not as walkable. I guess you could walk, but they're kind of spread out all over the place. So you could actually, I think there's like 30 of them. So you can actually make a day of that if you had the time. We saw one of them that was in the city center. And one other thing I'll mention is I really think Lyon is an up and coming city. During World War II, obviously there was a lot of damage to many of the European cities, and it was really dark in terms of all the buildings were charred and things like that. They've done a really excellent job in putting up these murals to lighten up things, put a lot of art involved, and also cleaned up the buildings. And they're consistently doing that. So you'll see, if you've been to Lyon maybe 10 or 15 years ago, it's a huge difference now, because they've kind of cleaned up everything, and everything is back to restored to former glory. So you'll see the buildings are spick and span. There's a lot of renovations, and so I think it's a really good time to go to Lyon. It's a very vibrant city. I find it's very friendly. And again, as I've said in my other videos with France, I find that at least now, the attitude of the people in France, I don't think they're trying to be uppity. I think a lot of times is that they're uncomfortable with English. And although a lot of them do speak some English, they're not confident in English. And so when we as tourists come in with English, it's not that they don't want to talk to us in English, but I think they're a little shy. And so it really helps to do the barrier if we can also speak a little bit of French. And I don't expect anyone to be fluent in French, but at the same point, just little things. Instead of saying hello, say bonjour or bonsoir at night. If instead of saying thank you, say merci and merci beaucoup. Instead of saying bye, say au revoir. Just little things that just let them know that you're trying and you're struggling too, because as much as you're struggling in French, they're struggling in English. And so you have to respect that and understand. I think we sometimes in North America or English, Western civilization, kind of have this view that we're the center of everything, and we don't see it from other people's view. And it's just like if people came to our country and they didn't speak the language, we'd say, hey, what is this, right? You should be speaking English. They don't take that attitude. They try to speak English to us, so we should at least try to speak a little French. That's kind of my view of things. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and until next time, safe travels.